Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here with my review of the Pterodactyl Zord from the Power Rangers 2017 movie. The last of the individual Zord reviews, and the very next video will be them all put together, with the prep done having been in these videos. But anyway, that is it for all that nonsense that I have to say in every video. Quick look here, we'll start right out by knocking over a putty and taking a look at the individual figure. If you've watched my other reviews on these, it'll be kind of a broken record, but I really do dig these little figures. I wouldn't be mad if they weren't included, but they're a neat inclusion. I just like that they have enough molding with the armor and the little details there that it looks better than the bike figures, and they have bits of articulation. Something I haven't mentioned is that, which isn't really huge because these aren't my main display pieces or anything, I do have a bit of trouble getting her to stand. Just like with the others, she does have a little compartment, goes in here, so let's go ahead and get that out of the way right now. And then, as a bonus for this one, because it is part of her gimmick, Pink Ranger Zord includes a little putty figure, which is honestly pretty neat. And I can't imagine the larger scale or even the actual show putties will look that different, other than probably just looking better in a render, but because, you know, putties are basic as is. But you can see a lot of its molded design. It's a little bit bigger, obviously, than the figure you just saw of the Ranger, but it's a neat little inclusion, and as you saw when I was messing around as well, it can move its little hands around. So yeah, we'll set that aside for a second. Let's focus on the Zord. There's not a whole lot to go over for this one. Unfortunately, I think it's my least favorite of the individual ones. I think it looks the cheapest, mainly because it's so predominantly gray, which it's hard to fault it for that, because I'm going to presume when we see this in the movie, it's going to be lots of silver and really cool metal-like looking with like pink accents, but it's kind of hard to translate into toy form, which, as I've kind of mentioned here and there in all these reviews, I think is inherently the problem with these. They overall still look okay, but I think that they're designs that are just going to look better in the CGI render, and it's hard to translate it into toy in a really cool way at this price point. Unless you did something on a higher price point that was able to be more detailed. But then again, it's like this weird argument I have, because it's like, on one hand, it's hard to translate that at this price point, but at the same time, then you have Voltron, which is at the same price point, and they're better figures, but they're translating from a cartoon, which is easier to translate a little bit, so it's like a constant argument in my head. But overall, I do like the design of it. Like, the core design of it, I think, looks very sleek. Just like the others, I think it's got a cool mix between the dinosaur and a bit of sleek alien technology. Look at all these little totem faces here. But just as far as the toy goes, I think it definitely looks cheap, and it's probably one of the cheaper feeling ones of the bunch. Other than putting pink in there and just bees playing, like I've been flying it around, like, shh. Its main gimmick involves pulling this piece back here, and opening this, which is like its little feet, and putting a putty in there and being able to drop it out of the sky. So it's like it's pooping, but a putty. I don't know if that'll happen in the movie, but it's kind of neat. It's not the coolest gimmick, but it was kind of a neat idea. I think it's trying something different. You got a putty figure. It's better than just having these be missiles. So I'm actually kind of happy with it. It's not amazing fun, but it's a decent little gimmick on what I think is the weakest individually. As far as getting it ready for its Megazord mode, it's very, very simple. Just yank the wings off here. This is sort of going to be a sword that will be able to hold it here, as far as I can tell from the instructions. Like, it looks like a sword. I think in the movie, when it's the sword, it'll probably look more fleshed out, but right now it just looks like a pterodactyl off. So yeah, there's that. And then with these, there's not a whole lot of prep left to go. All you're going to do is take these two pieces, which came with T-Rex, if you remember that from the T-Rex review, and you're going to put them on here. I might be putting them on the wrong way. It's possible. If I am, they'll be fixed in the final one. It could be the opposite, like this. Let me just see. But that's pretty much all. I think this makes more sense. Regardless, it should look normal in the final review. You'll get the general idea. But that's all you do here for these, is you just put these pieces on from the T-Rex, and that's all the prep you're going to need, and these will attach right on the back. I usually do our final verdict here with it in its Megazord formation, but since this is so simple to put back together, and I don't want to do a final verdict with the pterodactyl that looks like it's been destroyed. Yeah, so overall, these have been really hard to do a final verdict on, because it's weird trying to recommend it or think about recommending it individually and as a set. Individually, I think that these are actually probably stronger a little bit in some ways, except for this one. I think this is the weakest one looking individually. So if you're just being picky and choosy and for whatever reason you don't want all of them, then I think that this is probably the weakest and I wouldn't recommend it on its own. But if you're wanting to get the whole Megazord and this is your last piece, then pick it up. But overall, I think this is weak individually, but you'll hear my thoughts on the combined one in the next video. But again, I'm sorry, it's just a weird thing to review because there's so many aspects to recommend it on, and they kind of conflict with each other. But anyway, that was a very confusing final verdict, perhaps the most confusing in a long time, which is saying something. But anyway, until next time, make sure you check out the Crazy Podcast at writersrangersrambles.com, and of course, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Till next time, Dawson Ryder, signing out.